getting a situational picture of what's happening right now for a rental business, say Vail Resorts and a rental business there, can be quite challenging if you don't have the appropriate software for it. So what's out, what items are out, what's coming in, what are we supposed to give out today, where are all of the people, who is using them, what's the state of these orders, like commercially, have we served now everyone in this one order that has been paid? So all of that becomes quite complex, and similar aspects then happen in all of the e-commerce side of things. Yeah, and then maybe we'll probably get to a bit to this same topic when we start to talk about connectivity, but to mention earlier we were talking about temporality, every item being unique, and then this temporality in terms of orders. So I like to think about it as like a data cubicle, and I'll explain what that means. But if I look at the linear commerce model, I might have like a 2D plane. I have 10,000 SKUs, and then for each one of those I have a number, and that's what I track. And then that number is going up and down. But I don't too much care about the individual item that is representing one of those increments in the number. Now the first thing that happens if when I go single SKU, let's say that on average per SKU I have 1,000 items, so that 10,000 becomes 10 million data rows. And now each one of those have all of the columns that are defining its attributes and the taxonomy of it, the condition and the color and the product information, the monetary information. All of that becomes trackable on a unique level. Now we connect temporality to it, which is kind of, again, a new axis. So now we have a 3D cubicle, and it goes from all of the time that these items were created to infinite future. So then your cubicle starts to grow to be quite big. This is kind of the cubicle inside which your situational picture as a business lives. And then your business questions start to be, what's the state of this cubicle next year, January 5th? And then you need to go into that cubicle, find the relevant stuff, filter out what is interesting. And computationally, that becomes quite complex. And then things like availability optimization, utilization optimization is effectively looking at that data cubicle and figuring out what is the best item, for example, to serve an order. For me, if I think about it through that lens, the complexity becomes understandable, but still, like, you respect the data cubicle.
Absolutely, yeah. I think if there is this huge data cubicle, but at the same time you have to be super flexible to the individual needs of like each business, then I guess that's a good time to not talk about software, but more like actually operating system where you are enabling this.
Yeah, it's like when you start to design these solutions, it's not designing just like a vertical software necessarily. It's more of like the mindset is building a operating system. So it's like trying to understand what defines this operating system. Why is it great to use via, I don't know, command line, or via graphical user interface, or via just API calls or similar. So it goes to this level and on like as a design problem. But of course, usually the greatest operating systems have some underlying assumptions that define what can be done in terms of computation and such, but then they also have maybe a graphical user interface for that, for users, and then that's the world of preferences. Many tend to like, for example, Apple's quite simple, user-friendly approach, but then there's the people that want the granularity and that other OSs might be providing.
And where does Twice fit on this scale if you are talking about simplicity, Apple, and then Linux, Unix type of?
I think we want to build the Linux. I think already being kind of coming from Finland, Linus Torvalds, it's like, I think building Linux would be probably the dream when it comes to the graphical user interface. I think we'd like to be in the Apple category at one day as an approach, because, well, in the age of like AI and AI agents and AI augmented UX, what's the role of UI in 5 years of time? I don't know. It might be that we can spin out quite custom UIs on the fly almost. So maybe the question is then more in the like Linux level stuff, and how accessible is it for maybe AI agents via, I don't know, MCP layers and all of that. As Twice, we are maybe navigating towards that Linux and maybe Apple, hopefully.
Sounds like a pretty interesting topic for another podcast episode.